Turn the light on. Oh, yeah, you got it. This is the Rife Research Laboratory in Point Loma. This is Royal R. Rife, the research scientist of this laboratory. Here are views of the Rife Research Laboratory at Point Loma, California. This is narrated by John Crane, the principal scientist in this laboratory was Royal R. Rife, R-I-F-E, who had worked in research on cancer and many other diseases from 1920 to 1942. This is the chemical apparatus of the laboratory, part of it. The cultures are in this cabinet, which had to be protected from the radiation of the electromagnetic energy developed by Rife's ray tube instruments. There were many sterilizers in the laboratory, one being 15 feet long for the sterilization of glassware and other research items. These are hot water steam heaters. There was a complete machine shop in the laboratory for tool work, making microscopes, and providing any of the facilities needed for the research. This research was sponsored by the Rife Virus Microscope Institute, by Life Lab Incorporated, and by the John F. Crane Corporation, set up for continuing Rife's research. Every room was completed in itself. Nothing was taken from one room to another. Rife was a world traveler and a great marksman. He had 40 of the most beautiful guns made in those days. This is Rife's office, his desk. This is a vault where he kept some radium and other valuable materials used in the experiments on cancer. Rife had about 1,000 albino rats in the basement, which he used to grow tumors from a virus he isolated, a cancer virus, which was isolated and injected into the rats. These are steam sterilizers in a sterilization room. This is a surgery room in which the glassware and other surgery items were used in the operations on the rats by Rife. This is the main surgery table where the rats were, or the other animals were operated on. These are pictures of the surgical instruments used by Rife. Rife was assisted by many MDs that worked with him during this research. This is the optical room in which the microscopes and the Leit's optical bench is shown in the background with his universal microscope, the Rife microscope, published by the Smithsonian Institution and the Franklin Institute. This was one of 5 instruments that Rife designed and built with the help of his colleagues. This is a 1,000,000-volt X-ray. This is a stop-motion photomicrograph machine that was used to make delayed versions of the growing of flowers or the growing of viruses, and growing of plants, the growing of worms, which were all recorded. This was a Scania research camera, 35mm, that Rife used in his work. And this is a number 2 microscope. A virus microscope was a prismatic instrument. And this is the number 3 universal microscope, prismatic type, that embodied all fields of microscopy, including dark field, polarized light, infrared light, ultraviolet light, and monochromatic beam light. The indicator dial moved around 7 times to move the object up and down 1 micron, and it was a very sensitive instrument. The ocular that you see on the left side in the middle of the instrument, when that was plugged in, made it a standard microscope. Now, in isolating cancer virus in 1931, Rife took an ulcerated human breast mass from a Paradise Valley sanitarium donated by Dr. R.T. Hamer, who was assistant superintendent of the Paradise Valley Sanitarium and Hospital. Portions of this tumor were cut out and filtered through a triple-aught porcelain Berkfeld filter, which gave about 10 micron filtration. The virus could readily pass through a filter of this degree of closeness. The test tubes that are used or shown here are irradiated for 24 hours with neon argon or krypton gas, in which, like a fluorescent light, the radiation caused the virus to become virulent. Rife could then grow tumors in weeks instead of months in the art without this radiation. The test tubes were placed in a 2-inch water vacuum and irradiated for 24 hours as they progressed up the test tube holder. Everything is flamed to sterilize the bacteria, to sterilize the cotton that held it, and the solutions. Every time one test tube disappears, it means that there's an elapsed time of 24 hours between the radiation of the lights. This shows some of the experimental animals in the basement. Rife had over 1,000 animals, mostly albino rats. The rats were injected with a very tiny needle from the virus that he had filtered and isolated, and the tumors would be allowed to grow to be 2 or 3 grams heavier than the rat. These are some of the rats that you see now. Rife had about 12 men that worked in this laboratory to keep everything spotlessly clean, sterilized,